When you start a job in the network industry, you have a very small window of 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4, where you can create a very good and optimal environment for yourself so you can grow and you can learn very quickly, and you can also make your day-to-day job very easy in the long run. So in this video, I'll share with you 5 of the techniques that have worked for me and allow me to create that really nice environment where I was allowed to grow and learn as much as possible, be noticed, and eventually being promoted. Stay tuned. So the first thing that I do when I start in a new company or in a new role is to get hold of the design documents. This is one, I cannot recommend this step enough. So you get hold of the design documents and you go through them. This is where you do your audit and you go through all the design decisions and find out why was this given hardware selected? Why was this software version selected, for example? And why was this design decision made? Why was this one favored instead of the other? So these design documents, they come in 2 forms from my experience. They either in hard copies, the old binder copies, and they come in digital copies. So the binder copies, when you get those, you get 200 or 300 pages of high-level design, or LLD, the low-level design. You will go through them. They're not always accurate because it's very difficult to keep those documents up to date year after year after year. So it will give you a good start. You know, you will have your drawings, you will have your topologies, hardware selection and so forth, protocols, why they were selected, but they're not up to date. So when you start comparing this high-level and low-level designs with the actual network, you may find a lot of discrepancies. On the other hand, my favorite type of documentation is the digital documentation. So this is something that is maintained online and is organic. So ideally it's maintained and is documented as changes are taking place on a regular basis. So this will be as close as possible to the reality. So these documents are actually really critical for your start. First of all, they will give you a fantastic insight on your own network, if that is what you're managing, your own network. For example, if you're working for a service provider, or your customer's network. And one of the fantastic things about these documents is that if they are really done properly and by professionals, it will also give you an insight on a roadmap of what's to come. So there's a design document for what's being designed now and rolled out, but sometimes you will also find some information about what is the roadmap, what is the next level. And this is very, very informative for you. It will give you a fantastic head start. So you know how your network or your customer's network is meant to evolve in the future. Tip number 2. I always recommend that you should get very, very familiar with the tools that your team or other teams are using if you can. So as a network engineer, if you've been around long enough, or even for a short while, you will actually very quickly realize that knowing the CLI and knowing how to configure and debug is not enough. It's great, but it's not enough. You need to rely on a lot of tools. And when I say tools, I mean monitoring tools. So tools that will give us an insight on networks and the health of the network and the state of the network without having to dig in deeper. So these are things like your network monitoring platforms, where you will have your cml-p traps received, cml-p polling is taking place, where you're monitoring, for example, your capacity and utilizations on your links, where you're getting some notifications on outages and so forth. But it doesn't stop there. You know, this day you can use a lot of tools, so for example, like Splunk, to get all your syslog data. You can use Grafana to keep your eyes on the pulse when it comes to the sensors. So now you're digging in really deep. And the idea about getting used to the tools and getting familiar with the tools is that in an ideal scenario, you should know how to use them or get at least familiar with them way before you need them. So do not wait until you have to solve an issue or you need the tools to go and start learning about them. So try to learn about these tools. At least this is what I do. I try to get myself familiar with the tools, know how do I filter, where do I find this information, and so forth, before I need to start troubleshooting or debugging or extracting reports. And this will again give me a fantastic head start. So I much prefer to know what to do before I need to, so I don't get stressed out when I'm working under fault conditions or where my project is, or when my project is delayed and I'm being pushed and so forth. So it's very important to get familiar, find out first of all which tools are available within your company and your team, get the credentials and start getting yourself familiar and use them. Try to use them on a day-to-day. They may make your day-to-day life a lot easier. Tip number 3, you have to network. We are in the network industry, so we have to network. And what I mean by network is not going around and introducing yourself and shaking hands. Remember, all of this is happening the first couple of weeks, maybe 4 weeks, you started the new job. So it's a very small window that you have before things start getting terribly busy for yourself. So in that period, try to network as much as possible. And again, yes, by all means, go around and introduce yourself and shake hands and so forth. But what I mean by network is to actually make a solid commitment and agreements with other teams and other departments to go and spend a few days with them. For example, if you are an implementation engineer, reach out to the architects and go and spend time with them. So what would that give you is you will get a fantastic insight on the roadmap, what is going to happen in the future. And again, how does that help you? For myself, for example, it has helped me by saving me an awful lot of time. If I know that certain hardware or certain platform or a given vendor is to be phased out in the next year or 6 months, I'm not going to waste my time scheduling software upgrades, for example. And this is just one example. So it is very important to know and to reach out northbound. So if you're an implementation engineer, you reach out northbound to the architects and find out what are they thinking, and also you can give them some input so they know what is it that you guys are struggling with, and they will swing the design and the strategy and the roadmaps to accommodate your issues. You can also reach out southbound, which is very, very efficient and informative. So you will reach out, for example, to your network operations center guys. You will go and spend a few days with them. What will that give you? You will get to see what issues they are dealing with, what problems are troubling them. What are the most common and which are the most recurring ones. You maybe combine that with the knowledge that you got from your going through the design documents. You may be able to see a way out of it, or a way to improve the actual design to avoid those problems, and then you can start helping them out to close those tickets or actually eradicate the issues completely they're dealing with. So you get a lot of information. Also, if you happen to be working for the network operations center, you do the same thing. You will reach out northbound to your implementation engineers, to your design engineers, for example, and get that extra knowledge that will help you to do your day-to-day job. Equally, you will reach out southbound. So, for example, I'll be talking to the field technicians, the guys who are in the POPs or driving around, and they will be able to tell you a lot of things that could help you to do your job better and make your life easy. Ultimately. So they will be, for example, telling you, okay, there are problems. Some of the fans in this pop are a little bit close to another device. So now you have an answer. Why my device is getting too hot? Because something is obstructing your fans. And this you wouldn't be able to see sitting in a network operations center or being a design engineer or an architect. It has to be somebody who's doing a visual audit. So this is what I mean by networking. And this is where I see the importance of networking. You build a relationship and you get to see the world and your network with the eyes of other departments. Tip number 4. So this is something that ideally you should ask about during your interview process. If you haven't, it's not a big deal. You can always ask your team leader, your head of department, boss, or what have you. You need to find out, how are you measured? Either as an individual or as a team. How is your team being measured? This is very important because it will tell you what to focus on to do your job properly. Are you, for example, measured on, if you're an architect or designer, are you measured on creating cost-efficient design? Are you measured on keeping costs very low and creating some quality? Are you measured on creating very, very solid designs that are very robust, talking 5 nines and so forth? Or are you measured on turning around projects very quickly and meeting your deadlines? Are you measured on closing trouble tickets and the amount of them? So it is very important to know how you're measured, because if you don't know how you are measured, you cannot hit those performance targets that are set for you. You would be blindly working. You could be spending a lot of time going in one direction and putting all your efforts in closing tickets, for example, whereas the important things that you are judged on is keeping customers happy, or designing and meeting a deadline on a project that management has decided this is a top priority project. So it's very important to ask the questions, how am I measured? And how is my department, how's my team being measured? What is it? What is it that makes us reach those targets? If you ask this question during the job interviews, is actually a very, very positive thing, because what you're telling your panel of interviewers or your future employers is that you want to deliver. You are somebody who is target-driven, goal-driven, and you want to know how you're measured, and you are ready to deliver. So it shows that side of you that is not only, somebody who sits at his desk and hit the keyboard with Command and CLI, and he's really, into the technical stuff. But you also show there is an aspect of you that is kind of commercial or customer-orientated or what have you. And that is a bonus, that is a plus. It could be what will get you the job at the end of the day. And then finally, the last tip number 5, and this is okay, this is not so critical, but it's a very, very important tip. Do not make waves. So if you just started a new job in anywhere, but I'm specifically now talking about the network industry, do not make waves. So for example, you come in all happy and excited, you got the new job, and you went through your design documents and you've been doing an audit, making notes of discrepancies or finding areas of improvement. Don't start making waves and, trying to be the smart guy in the room and say, hey, I found this security issue. We need to start putting access lists here, and we need to add a few firewalls there, or, this router cannot handle all these BGP tables and routes and so forth. No, you started a new job. Keep your fingers in the pulse. Listen, contribute by all means, but don't make waves, because nobody like, somebody who's loud and somebody who just came in and tried to change everything around. Is by being kind of quiet and discreet, you're actually showing a lot of respect to your colleagues. There may be some people or in your team or other departments that have been there for a number of years. Maybe they've been too busy. Maybe they didn't have the time to make the changes, the ideal changes. Or maybe you coming in with a fantastic fresh pair of eyes and you see things that they haven't seen. So it could come across as being very offensive if you, within your 2-3 weeks, you start pinpointing the things that they have not looked at or the things that are wrong. And this is what I mean by do not make waves. You want to be diplomatic about things and give it time. You will have the chance to actually make the improvements that you see are needed. So all in all, these are my 5 tips that has worked for me as a person throughout my last 15 years plus career. I'll take my time in going through the design documents, do my audit, make notes. I will ask questions. I will get very familiar with all the tools available to me. Get the credentials, start using the tools, learn how to filter and so forth. Reach out to other departments, northbound, southbound, east, west, what have you. You can go to your data center guys and speak to them, to your security team and speak to them. The more you get to know people and know what they do, the better it is for you. And the benefit of all this is that you will be creating an excellent environment for yourself, both to grow and to grow very fast, to be noticed, to be efficient, and eventually to be promoted. But also, you will be making your day-to-day life a lot easier. Just imagine if you just start a new job and you lock yourself to your desk and this is all what you do. That's all what you do. You sit at your desk, you get trouble tickets or you get projects and that's all what you focus on. This is all what you do. It's great, it's fine, but it's not enough. You have to create that fantastic environment for yourself where you grow and use this time efficiently and just have a fantastic time doing your job. So I hope you have found these 5 tips informative and helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If there are other things that you can think of, drop them down there. We're all here to help each other. I'll see you soon and thank you for watching.